Especially when people do think of me as being a strong person, that's hard. It's very hard to sit there and think you're a strong person, but then know behind closed doors that you're actually putting up with something that no one would ever think you're putting up with.
Never allow a friend to
I would never allow a friend put up with it. And so it's hard. It's very hard to take all of these kind of secrets of a relationship and expose them.
Hey there, and welcome to Above and Beyond, the podcast where excellence meets elevation. I'm your host, Jan Simon, and I'm here to bring you real, unfiltered conversations with the people who are pushing boundaries and building something bigger than themselves. Digging in on mindset, mission, and the moments that shape these high performers and purpose-driven leaders. Whether you're chasing your next level or just getting started, you're in the right place. This is more than a podcast. It's a mindset, and we're taking it above and beyond. Today's guest is a powerhouse entrepreneur who leads with grit, heart, and a relentless drive to build systems that serve people with purpose. Her journey began in Ohio, but it was in Arizona where she carved her path. From early independence to becoming a multi-business owner and community leader, alongside her husband, she runs 3 thriving doghouse beer garden franchises in the Phoenix area, earning accolades like Operator of the Year and a seat on the Franchise Leadership Council. But she didn't stop there. Fueled by personal experience and compassion, she founded the Next Chapter Senior Care Solutions, a bold step to redefine care in an industry that often gets overlooked. Recognized as the Gilbert Chambers 2024 Business Leader of the Year, she's proof that empathy and excellence can and should coexist. Let's dive into the story of a woman who's not just building businesses, she's building legacies. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Andi Ott.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you very much. So, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Always a little nervous, but I'm excited to be here.
Perfect. Awesome.
Great intro.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the help on it. So, Andi, we have a little bit to unpack, and you just got to help me get down the road of where we're going.
Sure.
Let's start with early life. You're from Ohio originally.
Yes, I'm from Toledo, Ohio.
Toledo.
Northwest Ohio, about 5 minutes from the border to Michigan and a few to Indiana, way up there.
Cold and windy.
Cold, windy, gray, dreary. I always say it's a good place to be from. I'm really glad to live in the sunshine now.
For sure.
Yeah.
People ask me quite frequently, I shouldn't say quite frequently. Every now and then I get into conversations, people ask me if I miss Washington State. I'm like, I do, but not the winter. I was talking to Frank, and I'm like, do you miss a 4 foot of snow when you wake up in the morning? There's something about a fresh blanket of snow that's really nice to look at for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and Toledo doesn't get a whole lot of the nice fresh blankets of snow. A handful of times a year, maybe. We went sledding growing up and stuff, so I remember sometimes having pretty snow. Mm-hmm. More often than not, I remember the gray slush. And then it freezes overnight, and you're hoping for delays in the morning for school. I grew up 2 hour snow delays. That was a thing. I moved here when I was 15, so I was disappointed to lose that. That was probably the worst thing to lose in the move.
That's funny. I remember maybe once or twice that they actually canceled school. Everything else was a delay to get the plows out, clear the roads.
When I was in elementary school, I was in a suburb called Savannah. And out there, they bussed people in from a little bit further out in the country. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we got lucky and had more delays or canceled snow days. But I think they always baked in 5 days to the school year. So you couldn't go over that. Otherwise, you had to go into the summer. So you always want to get 5 if you can. And no more.
I did not know that. It's good to know.
You don't realize in Arizona.
So as a kid, anything crazy in those snow days or any life? Tell us about Andi's girl.
Where do I start? Let's see. So when I was really young, so my parents passed away when I was 5.
I'm sorry.
So it's okay. But I suppose I don't really remember when I was super, super little.
Okay.
But that was the beginning. So I ended up adopted by my aunt and uncle. We lived in Toledo. My grandma lived there. I'm really close with my grandma still today. So grew up with her. Most of my extended family is there. I have an older half-sister, 4 years older than me, and a younger brother, 2 years younger. I went to Catholic school.
Like the whole 9 yards of the outfits and the slap in the hand with the ruler and all.
Not quite. So I'm young enough to have missed some of that. I'm 35. So I feel like if I was in my 40s, I would have had all nuns. I had a couple nuns in school.
Oh.
They were no longer allowed to hit with rulers or anything like that. Definitely did have Catholic school uniforms and have to kneel down on the floor to measure it 2 inches.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't really work. Everybody just rolled rolled the top and then just like unrolled it when they were checking.
When they had to measure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep. So I went to fairly small school until 6th grade, and then a really small school for a couple years. And then from there, I went into a large public school, and that was a bit of a culture shock. I played a little bit of sports. I was never really good at any one sport. I dabbled in a bunch, but again, small private schools, you show up,
do everything.
You make the team.
We need warm bodies.
I'm 5'8", which isn't exceptionally tall, but I've been 5'8" since I was probably in like 4th grade.
Oh, wow.
5th grade-ish. So like I made the team.
Does it say basketball?
By default.
Or volleyball?
Yeah, I was center in basketball in elementary, got a little volleyball.
Gotcha.
All of the things.
Go get the rebounds.
Pretty much.
You don't handle the ball. Just get the rebound and pass it.
A little bit of swimming. I enjoyed that. My aunt and uncle, my parents, however you want to call it, they're very artsy. So they were not exceptionally supportive of sports. I think they still think they're a waste of time. I'm not artistically inclined at all. I have no skills. I cannot draw a stick figure.
Really?
Literally. I cannot draw a stick figure. Our passions didn't quite align in terms of the support of going all the way with sports.
Yeah.
So by the time I made it into high school, I wasn't really good enough to make the team because I went into a large public school.
Gotcha.
So I did make it as an alternate my freshman year on the volleyball team.
Nice.
I think I just had a good attitude, and they're like, all right, we'll let you in. But that was pretty much it. By that time, you had to play club. If you weren't playing club all year round, you were not making the team. So that was the end of my sports career.
Into any music or singing or theater?
Piano. Oh. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yes, I played piano for a long time, like 7 years. I actually was pretty good. I gave it up because I was 13, 14 in 8th grade, and I reached a point where I was having to practice 45 minutes or an hour every day.
Yeah.
And I had a social life, and that did not really...
Better things to do.
Yeah, so I gave it up. That's probably actually a fairly large regret. I would love to go back to that someday.
Yeah.
Someday when I have a lot of free time, I would like to get a piano and take some lessons and see if I could pick that back up.
I bet you would learn very quickly.
I hope so,
Yeah.
because it's really sad to me that I have to think to read music when once upon a time it was just
there.
Second nature.
Yeah, I totally understand that. My mom played piano my entire life. I think my sister's undergraduate degree is in concert piano.
Okay.
Not positive, but I'm pretty sure. And when I was young, probably 8, 9, 10 years old, my mom tried to give me lessons on the piano, and I was very much not interested at all.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my ADHD was probably out the window. Never
mom.
diagnosed, but
like,
I believe it.
You would have had more success with someone other than your mom, because you're always mean to your parents.
Yeah. So I never learned, and it's one of those things that I've now look back and think, God, it'd be really cool to be able to sit down and play the piano.
Yeah. I've never been good at improvising. I'm not one of those people who can sit down and just pound out some chords. My uncles are all actually, maybe not all, but a few of them are artistically inclined. And so even to this day, my uncle in Ohio, he'll get his guitar out and he like wants me to strum some chords. I'm like, I don't have that ability. I've always been very good at learning the technique, the skill, reading the music, knowing exactly this one is supposed to be like forte and pounding a little heavier, following the direction and just classical style learning. But I loved that I was good at it.
Yeah.
I wish that remained without any practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Such is life. I'll pick it back up.
So Ohio, and then moved to Arizona.
I moved to Arizona during fall break in October of my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
Not the time I would recommend moving if you're a parent and you're considering a move for your children.
You want them to like it?
Yeah, like you start high school somewhere. A lot of times you want to finish it. A lot of family dynamics. My family adoption caused a lot of family ripples over the years. I don't have a close relationship with my adoptive parents. There definitely was some family struggles in between their relationship then with other family members relative to myself and my brother. Ultimately, those factors plus some economic factors at the time back in 2000, 2007, forced to move. They were in advertising, better economy out here than there was in Toledo, Ohio. So all of those things, but I was very angry. I was not happy.
And you let them know.
The bold personality I'm known for today is not something that just magically showed up.
Gotcha.
I have had that my whole life. Pros and cons to that for sure. I feel like I do a much better job of using it for good now. My teenage years, not so much.
Yeah.
I was very rebellious. I was very upset about moving. I went to Mesquite High School when we moved here. So I started there the middle of my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which is a huge school. It's a good school.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it's like now.
At the time, it was good.
At the time, it was good.
I know somebody went to Mesquite.
Yeah. Class of 2008. So it was a good school, but it was really large. Even coming from a public school in Toledo, it was significantly larger. And that, I think, came probably a little bit too much freedom for my rebellious teenage self. I took all honors and AP classes and did well for a little while, and then started to realize that
you didn't have to work hard for it.
Didn't have to work hard for it. And sometimes I went a little too far to the other side of that and decided not to work for it at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Didn't attend school a decent chunk of my junior year.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I was like all of the things you don't really want your teenager to be. Yes, pretty much. I got it out of my system early, but
all right.
Now I have a 14-year-old daughter, so yeah, that comes back to me quite frequently.
I was going to say one of those, I hope one day you have a daughter that's just like you.
Yeah, I feel like that has been wished upon me for sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually going to get lucky, though. We have a very good relationship.
That's awesome.
I feel like she's good. I did not have that grounded, solid relationship through high school, and so it led me to making a lot of poor decisions, getting through it.
Did you have a job? Did you do anything extracurricular through high school?
So ironically enough, I actually think that's probably been the most stable part of my entire life is a job. I really sought independence, right? The lack of good connection with my family. I wanted independence. And how do you get independence as a 16-year-old? You get a job and you get your own money. People can't tell you what to do quite as much. The week I turned 16, I lived over off of Cooper in Houston and Gilbert.
Okay.
There's still a good amount of business up there, but like Cooper and Baseline. I just went and I walked. I literally walked everywhere because my parents wouldn't drive me to get a job. I didn't have a car. So I walked around and I filled out applications everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And there was a Quiznos there and they gave me a job. So I worked weekends there with a boss that was like 19 and really probably shouldn't have been a boss. But that was my very first job. And I stayed there about 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I left there to nanny over the summer for some family friends. And then I started at Golden Corral. I was still 16 at the time. And that kind of led the trajectory of me growing through restaurant leadership. That job, because I had kept it a long time and grown in that, it allowed me the following year to emancipate myself at 17.
Oh, wow.
I was able to show a plan for school, show that I had a stable, solid income and job that I had for a while and had some good references from my bosses and the support of them to do that. And then, that's where it all started.
Did you end up moving into your own apartment? Did you move in with a friend? What happened there?
I had some friends that were a year older than me. I had finished my junior year and they had finished their senior year. One of them, their mom had moved to California and was allowing them to rent the house. It was actually 3 of my guy friends and they needed a 4th roommate. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I paid $360 and all of my utilities were included.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That would probably make the other 17, 18-year-olds today cry.
For sure, sure.
I was able to move in with them for about 6 months.
Very cool.
And then eventually got my own apartment.
With owning the Doghouse restaurants, how many 16-year-olds walk in today asking to fill out a resume?
I don't know that a ton of teenagers in Gilbert, Arizona today want to work, to be honest with you. We have had some great ones. We've since changed. We've restructured a little bit, and so now we only hire 18 and over.
Oh, okay.
Because of the way we've restructured the front of the house and serving alcohol.
Oh.
But when we first opened in 2019, we did hire 16-year-olds, and we had a couple great ones. It was actually really fun to see their progress because they were walking in. A lot of children in Gilbert, Arizona live pretty privileged lives. It's interesting to see them walk in and not even know how to do something as simple as cleaning the windows or mopping the floor. Those are just skills that their lives haven't led them to learn. To have the opportunity to show them and see the confidence build, especially, I had one employee, his name is Chase. I won't say his last name in case he doesn't want to be mentioned, but he was probably my favorite new hire. He was 16. He was so nervous. He was so excited for his job. I remember his mom drove him. He was still in his school uniform And she sat on the patio so he could interview, and he was shaking. He worked for us for about 2 years before he graduated, went on to Barrett in the honors program. But he went from being this meek 16-year-old to confidently being able to run things in the front for us, was our trusted go-to person when we needed things resolved, and just to be able to have that faith in him because his confidence grew. He was very bright. He just didn't have job skills. He hadn't been in that environment.
Yeah.
And I think about him a lot too when I think about my daughter and whether or not what it's going to look like in a couple of years if we let her get a job or tell her she has to get a job. You see the benefit of working.
I think that's a great point that we miss, I think, probably too often, that as parents, obviously we want to protect the kids. We want to make sure that they're taken care of and whatnot, but are we protecting them too much by not giving them the opportunity to fall down? But getting them out there and having them work is awesome. So stepping back, we've gone through Ohio, you moved to Arizona. Anybody in there as far as teachers, mentors, or people that you worked with, bosses or managers, that had an impact on your life? You said your relationship with your adoptive parents wasn't great, but was there anybody that stands out to you?
So my boss, Linda, at the Golden Corral, quickly became the general manager after I started working there. She absolutely became the family that I didn't necessarily have. She was a person that I would ask all of random life questions to, would hold me accountable. I feel like I was a really good employee, not without my faults. I certainly was 16, 17, 18. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, I might have called in or something like that. For the most part, though, work was a huge priority for me. She helped me keep that priority and hold me accountable, but allowed a lot of opportunities for growth and helped me get promoted in that company. Mm-hmm. I reached a point of celebrating holidays with her. I still see her most of the time for holidays. Nice. Years later, she was in the delivery room when I delivered my daughter.
Oh, wow.
It definitely shaped my life for the positive. Having that person to be that surrogate mom when I didn't have that relationship. Mm-hmm. I got in trouble for a DUI when I was 18. Ouch. She was my phone call. Okay. Much like a parent, I remember sitting in the car and being driven back to her house, and she didn't say a word to me. I could feel the shame and disappointment, but it was impactful. It was like having someone that you care about, and you care if you're making them proud or disappointing them, and that helps, right? Yeah, in that moment prior, obviously it wasn't the right decision, but that was the last DUI I had.
So it was growing.
Yes,
it was a learning.
A good growth, yes.
And I think that as we grow, sometimes having that person that I'm going to say are afraid of, and I don't mean it in I'm fearful of this person because they're going to harm me, maybe a fear of disappointing.
Yeah.
And having that person, and sometimes as young people, in fact, I would say I did it, where it's like, okay, if I do this, what is so-and-so going to think?
You care about what that person thinks. Right. That relationship with them is strong enough that you actually care what they think of you.
Which helps guide us.
Absolutely.
In hopefully making better decisions than we would do if we
have that person
in our life. So after high school, you were at Golden Corral.
Yep.
Did you go to college? Did you just keep working at Golden Corral? What happened after that?
Okay, so after that, I did not go straight to college. I stayed working at Golden Corral right around when I was 19 or turning 19. My birthday's in November. I didn't have a passion for restaurants, really, so I was like, okay, I'm going to try something else. I actually quit or gave notice before I had a new job, which that's not really something I'd done. And that, by the way, that was still only really my second job, even at 19.
Okay.
I wasn't a job hopper. I liked the stability of a job. I briefly went and worked at the Sheraton Hotel, managing there. It was not a good fit. I ended up back at Golden Corral. I suppose a major life step, which is meeting my first future ex-husband. Is that right? Yeah. My daughter's biological dad.
Okay.
We both worked for Golden Corral. Not a great relationship, if I'm being honest. I was a little lost in life at this point. Ended up with him. We were living together. We had gotten engaged. And I came back to Golden Corral because there was an opportunity within the franchise to go down to Sierra Vista. There was a struggling store down there. The company got a 2-for-1 deal on relocation because we were already together, working for the same company. They sent us down there. I ended up married at 19. Don't generally recommend. Okay. Worked out really well for me, but don't recommend. The marriage didn't work out well. The daughter that came that changed my life, that worked well.
Perfect.
I ended up pregnant with my daughter. I didn't want to be down in Sierra Vista. So we started to let the company know. They made plans to bring us back up here. And then she was born in February of 2011. So I was 21 at the time. I stepped down out of management, went back to working super part-time, still was with my husband at the time, and he worked. Having my daughter was a pivotal point in my life. What am I doing with my life? Am I going to college? What do I want to do for a career? I need to figure this out. Started to make me reevaluate my marriage. It was, like I said, it wasn't a healthy relationship. He was an alcoholic, a lot of factors. And so she gave me a different purpose. So I started that summer when she was a baby, I started doing CNA school. I decided to go to nursing school. So I started with a CNA program, and then that following semester enrolled in nursing school. And that following winter separated from her dad and began the divorce process. And it was a few years later then I finished nursing school and left him behind.
What was the process like? You've got a young baby at home.
Yep.
How does that... There's a scariness, I think, that would come with that as far as, okay, I'm going to go back out on my own. Now, watching you navigate the community, you seem very sure of yourself, and I don't know if that's a facade you put on or if that's really what it is. How do you navigate that where you finally decide, I'm not good in this situation, take a step for myself, for my child, to become better?
It was very scary. I had essentially put myself in that situation with stepping down from managing in order to prioritize time with my daughter. Trinity was home and I was not going to be working 50+ hour weeks and never seeing her. But in doing so, I had financially cut myself off. I was completely dependent upon someone else that had been paying the bills. His job was paying the bills while my little bit of work was just supplementing money we used to go out to eat or get my nails done or things like that. So it was very scary. I did have very good friends. One of them moved in as soon as Manny, my ex-husband, moved out. So that helped. It was important to me to try to stay in the same place. I didn't want to have to move my daughter around. I know that was a priority for me, even if it meant I had to have a roommate and stuff. So I did that. I had 2 different roommates over the course of a few years until I started the core nursing program. But I don't know. I think for me, really, it was just looking at my daughter and thinking, this isn't the life that I want for her. It's not a good example. I feel like I've always followed that and thinking, all right, if it's not something that she would accept for herself, if I'm showing her I'm accepting it for me, I'm setting a poor example. That was really the thought process behind it.
Gotcha.
And then just taking that leap of faith and really not knowing what I was going to do. Linda, like I mentioned before, is extremely supportive. I think really the hardest part, though, is the pride factor. I've talked with people since then. I have friends who have gotten divorced later. And I think that's an underlying theme. A lot of times when people are going through things, they don't always share them, especially within a relationship. You don't know where you're going to end up. And so the last thing you want to do is take your spouse and smear them all over, right? You don't want them to look bad. You also don't want yourself to look bad. And when you're sitting there putting up with a very unhealthy relationship, especially when people do think of me as being a strong person, that's hard. It's very hard to think you're a strong person, but then know behind closed doors that you're putting up with something that no one would ever think you're putting up with.
You'd never allow a friend to put up with it.
I would never allow a friend put up with it. It's very hard to take all of these secrets of a relationship and expose them. But when you tell someone you're going to separate, you're going to get divorced, all of a sudden they're like, why? What's going on? And you have to share some of those things. I think the initial pride, that's hard. There's not a lot of divorce in my family. I grew up Catholic. There's that inherent Catholic guilt. I was afraid to tell my grandma, which is really silly because she also wouldn't have wanted me to continue to put up with something like that. But that was hard.
Yeah.
So I feel like once I got over that hurdle, the hurdle of my pride and just admitting that I effed this up, I made a poor decision, and now I'm going to fix it. Once I got over that, the rest of it is just logistics. And that's just problem solving. And that part I'm actually pretty good at.
I think not wanting to disappoint that person or people in your life that are important to you, I think when we feel like we're going to fail and whether or not we have control over that failure, I think is a huge thing.
Yeah.
When you talk about pride, for me, that's what I think about, having gone through that myself.
It's hard to admit when you failed.
Yeah.
But the sooner you admit you failed, the sooner you can move past the failure and start succeeding in other things.
Yeah,
but you do have to have that big scary moment of just owning the failure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Owning it. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sidetrack there. Back into school.
Okay. Yep.
So the first time around, you said you were a good student and then you did AP and then you fell out of being a good student and now you're back in college. How was that? Were you a good student back in college? Was that a struggle? How did that go?
I didn't sleep a lot. So I wasn't a horrible student, but I also wasn't the best student. I learned pretty easily. It's a blessing and a curse. I've always been like that. I'm also ADD. And the ability to procrastinate and get something done under pressure, I'm very good about.
Amen to that.
With that doesn't always come the strongest study skills. I failed Anatomy and Physiology 1 the first time I took it. I realized I had never developed any study skills because I'd never really needed them. I could sit through a lecture and just pass a test. A&P is a lot of memorization. I had to retake a class. That was great. That was actually when I got diagnosed with ADHD for the first time. But yeah, so I was okay. I was really good at tests. I showed up. I didn't skip school. I prioritized it. But I was a mom of a toddler, and I was working night shift at the hospital.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of being up for day or two straight.
Wow.
And then trying to sleep in like little 60 or 90-minute segments at a time. So most of that was a blur.
Yeah. Let's sit down and watch a movie together.
Yes. I remember my daughter, they always say God gives you what you can handle. Trinity, she was so good and so easy. I would nap with her, with all of her activities spread out on my bed that was on the floor. So there was nothing she could get into. CPS can't take my kid away now. So this was a long time ago.
I'm sure CPS doesn't listen to this.
But I would set an alarm on my phone to sleep for, depending on her age, like 45 to 60, 90 minutes at a time while she was right next to me. So it was light sleep.
Yeah.
But I would just wake up to check on her to see what she needs, to see if I need to feed her, do something with her, and then go sleep for another 45, 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's how I would get through because I felt bad. She was at a babysitter when I was at work overnight. I had school. She would go to daycare when I was at school. I don't even know if it was the most responsible. It was probably partially selfish because I was just in her presence, even though I wasn't always super engaged. It was what I had to do. I had no more money to pay anyone to watch her anyways, but also I felt bad. I wanted to be with her. During that period, I spent a lot of time prioritizing her. When I didn't have school and work, it was 100% what does Trinity need? We went to the zoo. We went to Sea Life, Arizona. We would ask for passes for those things for Christmas. Yeah. I'm not a big gift giver. That's not my love language. But we would ask for passes because then that was something I could use all year long, even when I had no money. We spent a lot of time going to the like $2 and $3 aquatic parks in Chandler.
Yep.
So a lot of things like that. I didn't really do a whole lot for myself. I eventually learned a little bit more balance. Okay. But during that time period, it was a lot of just grind. Do what has to be done and just grind.
Yeah. That's awesome. I commend you for that. I'm sure that the work and the exhaustion and everything else is
survival. It's given me a lot of perspective now. I feel like my ability, when we look at our teams in all the different companies, and sometimes it's easy to get frustrated. A team member isn't doing what you need them to do. And it doesn't excuse it. It doesn't mean that you can't still hold people accountable. But I do think that I approach people in a slightly different way because I do recognize and know what it feels like to be in survival. When you're just doing everything you can to get through, you don't always have the capacity to care beyond that survival. It's like you're in tunnel vision. You don't have the ability to stop and gain the perspective that's really needed in a moment. It's helpful when you're able to find that. But if someone's not helping you find that, you're just looking down a tunnel at the next thing in front of you because that's all you have the capacity for in that time.
And I think we forget about that when I'm in the service industry. I think I serve people, but I think about that where it's like, this person's coming to me because whatever it is making their hair on fire. I may not think it's a big deal. I may be annoyed because I've got more important stuff to do, but I need to step back and disengage myself from whatever it is and be able to look at these people and say, okay, let me take this on. Let me fix this problem, whatever it is, and allow you to move on. Without getting upset.
Absolutely.
I don't ever get upset.
Sure.
Times.
Hang up, get upset.
Right, exactly.
Or then have a moment of talking shit about how, are you serious? This is your problem today? This is your fire?
This is why you called to scream at me. This is why the phone has rung 82 times. Yes. I'm in a meeting. I will call you back. It's okay. I will get back to you. Yes. I promise.
Well, absolutely. Recognizing people's different perspectives in that a problem is still a problem.
Yeah.
And so I've had literally can't figure out how to pay my electric bill to hundreds of thousands of dollar problems when owning businesses. The lesson I've learned is that anytime you're dealing with a change from baseline, if this is your normal day, if this is your normal baseline, and then XYZ happens to you, it feels like a fire.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it's hard to remember in certain moments because you're like, this doesn't seem like a big problem. But sometimes it's isolating. Having problems where you don't know how you're going to pay your electric bill, it's most people feel bad for you. Maybe not like a homeless person that doesn't even have a utility company.
Right.
A lot of people are going to feel bad for you, or at least feel you're justified in that problem. I found that those bigger problems today are more isolating.
Yeah.
They're more isolating because you're going to go complain about a problem that isn't, you're not going to become unhoused. It's a problem and it's causing a lot of stress. But if you haven't been in that position, you don't understand that stress and can't appreciate it. Sometimes that's extremely isolating. It's been helpful for me in bringing new friendships into my circle that are in similar points in their careers to have those people to vent to. Yeah. Because you don't want to complain to your friend that's rent just went up and they don't know where they're going to live in 2 months. They don't care about your problems. Even if they wanted to, you just feel bad telling them about them.
Right. It's similar to the conversation about making payroll, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As a business owner, I would say that's probably the biggest stress. Obviously, paying the bills and whatever. But payroll can't be put on credit. It literally has to be taken care of right now. If I don't pay payroll, how many people does this impact? Right?
Absolutely. It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden, you're looking at the bank account and you're going, okay, I'm short. I don't get paid this month. I guess my creditors will be after me or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
And so when it's, I can't pay the electrical bill and I need to go down to a community service or something and ask for assistance and things. And I'm not trying to belittle that at all because it's a huge problem in that moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But as we grow and as we develop these businesses and become larger, those problems become larger.
Yeah. The responsibility becomes larger and it's affecting more than just yourself.
There's nobody I can go down to tomorrow and say, hey, I'm not going to make payroll this month. Can you give me $20, $30, $50, $100,000?
100%. And that for sure is the difference. I have had my electric turned off. I called my grandma. It was very stressful. Ate my pride and my grandma helped bail me out. It did take a couple days. There was a whole debacle. It only happened one time, but it was a whole debacle. The point is, yes, someone could bail me out because getting bailed out was less than $1,000 between a bill and an increased deposit and all of the things. It could be handled for what someone else close to me had in their bank account. Yeah, my payroll problems, those cannot be handled by someone close to me coming out of their bank account.
No, for sure.
Unless I start getting like better friends. No,
right? I need some really good friends. Okay, so nursing school.
Yep.
You an RN?
So I went through Grand Canyon's nursing program through their BSN. And then I had issues with my ex-husband. My daughter at this point is 4. He moved about 3 hours away, wasn't really seeing her very much. He got into a whole big legal debacle, lost child support, all the things. Then I ended up working a bunch of overtime, things like that, and ended up never sitting for licensing. If I were to go back and do that, I'd have to do more school all over again. In that process, I met Damon, and then we got together, and then the plan was that I was going to go back and redo that school. We were a few years into our relationship. We were closing on our house as he lost his job. We still managed to close on our house, and instead of him getting a new job, he decided to open the restaurant.
That's a great decision.
I was just going to help, and then I was going to circle back.
Oh, my goodness.
But I helped my way into a full-time job.
Full-time job.
Times a few.
Wow. So was his background in restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is actually where we originally met, also at Golden Corral.
Oh.
Yep. So go ahead and crack your funny jokes if you can come up with them.
I was holding back.
Go for it.
You would be amazed at how fast this brain works, usually when it's digging at people.
My whole life originated at Golden Corral, basically. I met him before I got married the first time, but he ran in a circle with my cousin and another friend. We were just acquaintances for a long time. Somewhere along there, started dating. Then the rest is history. But yeah, so that's 2019. 2019 is when we opened the first restaurant. 2018 is when he lost his job. That's when we ended up signing on the franchise development agreement originally.
Take me there. Out of curiosity, he loses a job, you just sign on a house, and now you step into a franchise agreement.
Yeah. So he lost his job in February.
Okay.
They fired the whole management team. They were selling the franchise. We originally looked at Golden Corral because that's what we knew. There was a location that could have been built up on Bell. A lot of politics involved, a lot of money involved. The deal did not come through. But in the process, we worked with a real estate broker. Then when we went back to the drawing table that summer of 2018, he's the one who asked us, have you heard of Haus? Because we were so naive at that point. I didn't even know where to go to find a franchise to invest in, which is really crazy because now I could coach you through the whole process.
My stepdaughter would say Google.
Yeah, but that's what we did. All we did is Google and did not land necessarily on the right sources. So we had no idea how to pick. Like there's franchise consultants now that will take all of your information.
No kidding.
What money do you have? What do you want to invest in? What's interesting to you? They'll basically match make you and help you vet. It's a whole thing. It's basically like a real estate person, but for picking a franchise.
Okay.
I'm glad we didn't do it because all of the happy accidents have led to where I'm at now. But when I think about how stupid and naive people are always like, how did you pick? And I'm like, it's embarrassing. The real estate brokers, have you heard of this company? I'm like, no, I have not. So then I went to Google, Yelp reviews, looked at pictures. We drove at Pasadena, California. That's where Doghouse is based.
Okay.
Met the guys. Good vibes.
Yeah.
Went and had some food. Ran a few numbers. Met with an attorney who tried to talk us out of franchising. He was just telling us all the reasons it was a bad idea. And we're like, okay, perfect. We're going to do this anyways.
Yeah.
And then we decided that because we originally were going to do a Golden Corral, by default, AUVs and stuff on a doghouse were not as high. So we're like, we need to for sure do 3 of them. So we signed for 3 of them right away and said, all right, F it, let's do this. And so we did.
So much for eating that elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah, there was none of that. We made tons of mistakes. We had a CPA that filed our taxes, but we didn't bring in a CPA through the strategy part of that process. So I always tell people we used Damon's retirement savings to fund our cash injections for an SBA loan.
Wow.
Fun fact, there's a great program to do that without taking a tax hit.
Okay.
Andy and Damon did not take that approach.
Oh.
So we had like $70,000 tax bill from pulling that money before retirement. Years later, we were able to amend it and get it fixed. You don't know what you don't know. You definitely need a CPA or some type of financial strategist long before you file your taxes.
Wow.
But we somehow did it, pulled it off. I have a nursing degree, not a business degree. Somehow I was in charge of our business plans and writing our projections. So me and Google spent a lot of time. ChatGPT was not a thing then. It would be easier today with ChatGPT.
For sure.
So I just spent a lot of time learning.
Wow.
Yeah. The SBA said, okay, you guys can have some money. We did have resumes that had strong leadership backgrounds, lots of restaurant management. Damon had been doing it for, I guess, 25 or so years at that point. I had a good handful or so before I went into healthcare. They said, okay. Decided our credit was good enough and our experience was good. They'll give us a chance.
Yeah.
And so we did it. We opened in November of 2019.
Now, did you open the Gilbert location first?
Yes.
And then Chandler?
Yeah, so
Phoenix?
Chandler was 2 years later. Gilbert was first in November of 2019. It was a little bit of a rough start, but we figured it out. We learned what we didn't know, built those systems and processes. Doghouse is a new franchise, so they weren't 100% turnkey on all of those things, but that tends to be my area of expertise is building systems and processes. So we were able to go in, figure that out. Projections were looking really great for March of 2020. We had started the SBA loan process for the next location. Remember, we had signed on to do 3. Got that all started, and then there was this little like thing
COVID.
that was like flowing around. And then, like sales started to tank, and we're like, okay, it's going to be fine. And then they tanked, and then we closed completely because we were, much to your point, talking about payroll. The responsibility of payroll is ultimately what led us to close because our sales in that second week of March, I still remember we closed on March 18th, and it was after doing $60 or $90 for lunch completely. And so we just decided, hey, we're going to go broke. We had just barely gotten out of that. And by gotten out of it, just stopped going down the whole of a new business. But we're like, we're not going to be able to afford to maintain this if we keep staffing people and bringing them in. So we cut all of our hourly employees. We closed the restaurant down. We kept our salaried management team so that they would still be there. When we reopened, our original plan was to reopen in a few weeks when it blew over. Obviously, that's not how it happened. So we reopened limited hours, brought everyone back in, did the whole takeout thing, survived 2020, rolled into a great 2021. And somewhere in there is when we restarted the process for the Chandler location. But the lending environment had obviously changed a lot during the pandemic. And so projections-based lending in a restaurant, not extremely favorable. It was difficult to find someone. We did find an option. Construction costs were higher. I still, at this point, really didn't know what I was doing. I was 100% faking my way through everything in 2021. If I could go back, I wish I knew a little bit more of what I know now because I would have admitted a lot more of the things I didn't know and reached out for help.
Gotcha.
Just didn't have that circle and resources that I have today. Then we had a merger between 2 banks, BBVA and Compass or something.
Okay.
So I get a phone call We're a year into this project, funding it, get a phone call that we think is going to be our closing approval. That's how far down we are in this process with the guy who did our first SBA loan, who was like, thumbs up, we got this. Oh, that merger meant they were no longer doing the lending. So instead of getting a phone call to close, we literally got a phone call. I thought he was kidding me. His name is Demetrius. I remember saying, you're kidding, right? And he was like, I'm so sorry. I wish that I were.
God.
So what should have been like a celebratory toast turned to an absolute oh shit. I have a lease already.
Yeah.
Like all of the things. It worked out. It was fine. We ended up being able to do a recapitalization loan on the first restaurant to build out the second one. That was also a nightmare. It was 2 years, 26 months from the time we signed the lease until we opened.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, probably 50% over budget. Lots of learning opportunities. Yeah, it was not a smooth ride at all.
Oh my God.
But we got it open.
Okay.
And then hemorrhaged about $90,000 over the next 6 months. And that was the moment in which we're like, okay, like this house in there 2023, we bought a new house. And summer of 2023, we talked a lot about selling that really brand new house and not sure if we were going to keep it. Because I was like, I'm not going to go down with this ship. I'm not going to, my pride's not attached to a thing. Like I actually was telling people, because again, going back to that fear of failure and having to admit failure, I didn't want to like manifest a failure, but I didn't want to get so far down where people thought it was so good that all of a sudden I was going to my friends and telling them, hey, by the way, we're going to lose our house. The restaurant's done. I'm filing bankruptcy. I feel like I prepped my circle just in case, because we really weren't sure. But then it worked out. We got to even. Things were fine. And then we rolled into an opportunity to get downtown Phoenix. That's 2024. We reopened downtown Phoenix.
Awesome. Because I'm not familiar and our listeners may not be familiar. Okay. Let's give a plug.
Okay.
Doghouse Beer Garden.
Doghouse Beer Garden.
There's one at Santan Mall. Basically, what is that? Williamsfield and Santan Parkway?
Yep, 202.
Yeah. Where's the Chandler location?
Chandler is off Chandler and the 101.
And is that also in the mall?
No, so it's actually on the east side. It's over by In-N-Out in front of Lowe's. Okay. Mimi's Cafe.
Gotcha.
It's on the northeast corner.
Gotcha. Where's the Phoenix location?
Phoenix location's at Cityscape downtown, right at Central and Washington.
And I have to ask.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite thing on the menu?
Nashville-style chicken tenders.
Oh, yeah?
That's my go-to. Huh. Everybody overlooks the chicken. Everything on the menu is good. I'm obviously biased.
Yeah.
Nashville-style chicken tenders, that is the thing I can eat and not get sick of.
I love the fact that you guys use Hawaiian rolls. Yeah. They're so good.
They are so good.
Takes it to another.
Have you tried a bowl, though? That's like what you need on a day you still have to go back to work.
Oh, yeah? So I don't have to fall asleep. You guys used to have arugula, chicken hot dog, or whatever you call it, sausage, garlic aioli, and maybe some...
I feel like you're describing a mixture. SoCali? Maybe that has arugula, tomato, avocado, and a spicy basil aioli.
Yeah, I like that one very much. But you used to have it on the menu, and you don't have it anymore. And it was like a chicken hot dog.
Are you thinking of the...
Or a turkey.
That was a chicken sausage. Oof, now I'm going to mess up my menu. Jalapenos and pineapple.
No? Anyways.
I don't know.
Wow, whatever.
Well, you'll have to figure out what it is. We probably still have the ingredients, and we could just secret menu.
Make it. Okay.
A lot of things live on the secret menu if you know how to ask.
You guys have the best tots, though.
I agree.
When they come out crispy, that's the way to have them.
Have you tried the loaded tots?
No, I have not.
Are you going to come to the PN happy hour?
I am, actually. Yes.
I have to confirm details with Karen before I officially announce it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do some kind of loaded tots deal.
Nice.
10 out of 10 recommend.
I will try that.
Yeah.
I'll try that. My son got divorced. My ex-wife moved to Minnesota with the kids. And then when my son would come down later on after you guys had opened Doghouse, I don't remember the first time I had gone there, but I fell in love with the fact that you used the Hawaiian rolls. I just loved that.
It's nice and sweet.
Yeah, there was just something kick to it.
Yeah.
Every time he would come down, I took him there once, and then every time he'd come down, let's just go to Doghouse. I'm like, okay. So we go to Doghouse.
I love that.
Yeah, so we love it. Great place. All right, so nursing school.
Yep.
You finished nursing school.
Restaurants now. Yeah.
Now you're into restaurants. And then all of a sudden you decide, I don't have enough on my plate.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the restaurants to Damon.
I wish it were that simple. But
I'm going to go open another business.
Yeah. You remember in the beginning I told you I was just going to help Damon open the restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Because a long time ago, I told you I left restaurants because I didn't want to be in restaurants. I didn't have the passion for them.
Yeah.
But I did realize I really enjoy business ownership. Were there times I had to go in and do some things I don't enjoy doing? Absolutely. We'd be kidding ourselves if we all said we have jobs that we never do anything we don't enjoy.
Right.
But the bulk of my responsibility within the restaurants actually came to love. I do a lot of the administrative side, HR, kind of leadership coaching, things like that. I can do food cost. I understand it mathematically. I can do inventory. I can set up systems to control it, but that's not my passion. Damon's much better at that. But I loved the business side of things. While I said all of these mistakes I made and didn't know, each mistake I made, I tried to learn so I didn't make it again. And I got better and better. I started to ask those questions. I started to sit in the room and tell people, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Can you explain it to me? Like leases, that was a big thing. I couldn't write a commercial lease, but I can read mine and I understand it today.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time asking questions and figuring it out. And so I love that. But healthcare, right? At this point now, we have 3 restaurants. I've left the hospital. I'm not really eager to go back. So it starts to be like, okay, what do I do with my life? Where do we go? And how do I combine those passions a little bit? In 2018, when Damon was going to corporate training before we opened the restaurant, my grandma, who lives in Ohio, flew here to help me with Trinity while I still had work. And then while she was here, she ended up in the hospital. She had some mini strokes, TIAs. And so that kind of started a little bit of a spiral of her health. She had been losing her eyesight for the last handful of years, not entirely sure what it was from. So the doctors never really figured it out. But she was progressively losing her vision, starting to have many strokes, some cardiac issues, and it wasn't safe for her to be by herself. She came out to help us. She ended up staying with us for 6 or 8 weeks while we helped her navigate what does her living situation look like. Ended up sending her back to Ohio when she was good enough to fly. Tried to move her into an assisted living. Put her house on the market, didn't work out. She hated it. She said the food sucked. She didn't have the greatest attitude about it.
Okay.
We canceled a contract on her house, moved her back into her home, and tried to get it set up to be as safe as it possibly could be, even though it wasn't really safe. But that's what she wanted. And so over the next few years, it was a lot of just finding ways to compromise on what can we do in your home to make it a little bit safer for you. I lived 2,000 miles away, and I'm calling you, and then you don't answer sometimes. I'm deciding whether or not to call the neighbor to do a welfare check, or my uncle who lived about 5-10 minutes away, trying to have him drive over. So it was a lot of navigating that. We eventually ended up moving her washer and dryer up to the main level. Eventually, we installed some cameras where you could see on the major walkways. There was always a fear of her being on the ground, helpless, and nobody knowing she was there. Eventually, she ended up having a UTI, ended up in the hospital. From there, ended up in a SNF, and that very little bit of independence that she had clung to, it just wasn't able to be restored after all of that. And so we had to, as a family, figure out what does that look like. She had always thought it wasn't going to happen to her. We tried to have those conversations. We tried to do some different planning. It wouldn't really happen. So now we're in crisis mode. And like families often find themselves in trying to figure that out. Ultimately, my uncle and his wife decided to move into my grandma's home. And then we hired a family member to be her caregiver while my uncle was at work. We've made that happen for the last couple of years after trying some agencies and experiencing that. And so through all of that, I became power of attorney. I share that also with my uncle. Both of us have that. And part of the reason, even though I'm far away, I took on that responsibility is I listened to my grandma. It's really easy to objectively look at a situation and say, this is what needs to be done. This is the quote unquote right thing to do. You're looking at facts. It's easy to find a solution when all you're considering is safety and facts. Yep. But if you bring in that human element and you start to think about what does that feel like for someone? What does it feel like for my grandma who's raised 5 children? She's helped raise a bunch of grandchildren. She's lived independently. She was widowed when she was very young. So she did life by herself as an independent woman her whole life.
Oh, wow.
So to feel what that feels like to have some of that taken away or threatening to take that away, that's scary. I spent a lot of time talking with her, trying to understand that perspective and help advocate for her with my family, finding compromises really, just because it's the safest, best thing doesn't mean it's the right thing. Yep. It's not what she wanted. I don't know exactly what prompted me to decide to open another business. I joke that I'm pretty sure actually what prompted it is that I had a couple drinks a day or two after Christmas and was bored and scrolling and was like, I should open a business. And then I started researching, and I started researching franchises first because that's what I had experience in. And so I researched several and got pretty far into it with a couple franchises, which at first they were rude and They were like, I told them I want to buy 5 territories. And they were giving me a hard time. And I'm like, I'm not doing this for 1 territory. And then finally they would be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, you have all of this experience running restaurants. Since there's such a high failure rate, if you don't have a failed restaurant, people think you're really good at something. It's like instant credibility. So they're like, okay, sure, we'll give you this. But as I got to it, I just realized I was going to lose control. I was going to be in a box. I was going to have to be constricted to certain territories and certain ways of doing things. After some conversations with people that had done it before and friends that had supported me and encouraged me, just do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Just do it. And so somewhere in there, I took a leap of faith and said, F it, okay. Yeah. And so I just started researching, and that was in spring of last year.
Wow.
So as we were getting Phoenix open, the plan was, okay, we're going to transition some people. We're going to promote one of our GMs to an executive GM position to try to take a little bit off my plate. And so we spent 6 months or so getting everybody ready, trying to take as much off my plate as I possibly could. And then I basically spent daytime doing Doghouse and then the evenings building the stuff for the next chapter.
Wow. And the name of the business?
It's called The Next Chapter. Through all of that with my grandma, she expressed a lot of fear of losing her independence, recognizing that needing help is not the end. It's just the beginning of the next chapter.
Gotcha. And what services do you provide in that?
So we provide personal care in the home. We can come into independent living, assisted living and supplement, or wherever the senior lives. Okay. It's all non-medical. So we're coming in to help with bathing, dressing, hygiene, companionship, medication reminders, helping with grocery shopping, light housekeeping, things like that. So anything from companionship, just like 12 hours a week, all the way up to full 24/7 care.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Congratulations. I am blown away because obviously the relationship that you and Damon have allows you to...
Oh, yeah. He's extremely supportive.
Yeah, I was saying he's got to be extremely supportive in that.
Extremely supportive. I was driving the other day thinking about it because I am very much in the beginning stages where we launched in November. I've brought in some team members, and something I've realized is that I can't do it all by myself. I am still very much involved in Doghouse, as much as we joke about giving it all to Damon. And so there's only so many hours in the day, and I am also a wife and a mom. So I can't put 80 or 100 hours into one business. That's just not where I'm at in my life. So we made the decision as a family to take a bigger risk, dig a deeper hole, and bring on team members. And I was driving the other day thinking about that. I'm like, when we did Doghouse, we both can see everything. We're in it. We're strategizing together. With the next chapter, he really has a lot of blind faith. Certainly, he has access if he wanted to go look at something or ask me. It's not like I'm hiding the financials or anything like that. The amount of money that I'm losing in the new business right now, and he's just like, absolutely, I got you. We got this.
That's awesome.
Picks up the slack on getting Trinity to volleyball practices, and I'm incredibly blessed to have a strong, supportive family behind me that is like, all right, you can do this, and they trust me to do it, and they're willing to pick up the slack in areas that I can't do a good job right now. Like, I'm not A+ mom. I'm world's okayest mom right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you could go back now and tell your 15, 16-year-old self when you're October is your sophomore year of high school and you start deciding you're going to slide a little bit, would you tell yourself anything? Is there any advice you would give yourself back then? Or would you say, you know what, take the slide and then grow up later?
I'm not really a big believer in regrets. I firmly believe that everything happens for a reason. I've hit so many obstacles that have felt like crushing moments. And each time those crushing moments have turned into amazing pivots. The more of those that I experience, the less I freak out about them. So I don't know that I would want to go back and do anything differently. Someone asked me, I spent a lot of time last year. I hit 2023 when we were opening the restaurant, Chandler, second restaurant, and dealing with, that was hard. It was really hard. And it was hard to go from the success of Gilbert into what felt like just crushing at Chandler. And then, like I said, we moved into our house in 2023. And so that was a huge dream. I have my dream home. I have pocket doors. I always wanted pocket doors. But to sit there in this beautiful home with this beautiful life and just be like, why? Why am I doing this? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I chasing this? I'm not a really materialistic person. I pursue experiences, but I'm not really a things person. And so having to recalibrate and figure out why I'm doing this helped. Someone in that process had asked me, if you had to go through all of the horrible things you went through in your childhood all over again, knowing that those experiences would shape you into the success you would have later, would you choose it? In the moment when I was asked that question, I didn't really know the answer, but it hit me in the gut. I've held on to that for the last year and thought about it a lot. And I can honestly say today the answer is yes. The things that helped make me successful in business had to come from those kind of horrible things I had to go through as a kid. It built the resilience, independence, the ability to connect and read people and situations, to know what I need to be in that situation. I feel like it's a new process. Like I'm entering a new phase of trying to peel that back. I know we talked a little bit off air before we started. Like my desire was to push all of that into the past and distance myself from it, to chase these achievements and accolades, to feel like I reached this safety point. And if someone finds out I got a DUI or skipped school my junior year, it'll be okay because you'll see all of this success. And I think now I'm starting to realize that it was because of a lot of those things.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would change anything. That was my very long-winded answer to tell you, no, I don't think I would change anything.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I would even have advice. I suppose it'd be nice to hear from myself to be like, it'll be okay. Because I don't think I felt like it would be okay at that point in time.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would have believed it anyway. And just keep on keeping on.
Sounds like you probably had the attitude where you would have told yourself, shut up.
Exactly.
Get out of my face.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I think you covered this. But stepping back again, as far as feelings go, do you remember the first time that you made money and how that made you feel?
Oh, like in high school when I got my first job?
Yeah.
It's that safety. I think now, as a real adult, I can recognize there's safety in other things. But at that point in my life, I didn't have a lot of those things. I didn't have that safety feeling with my family. I didn't have that safety feeling with my home. I didn't have that safe, stable feeling. For me, it was a tool. And so money coming in felt safe.
Yeah.
It felt like there was something that was going to give me a little bit of control and power back in my life to do what I needed to do, which at that point in time was just saving up to buy a car.
Yeah.
Which turned into me eventually buying a car and then me eventually leaving home with that car after my parents tried to take it away from me. But I think that was probably a lot of it. It was that safety and independence that comes from having a tool. Money to me is just a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool to help you do the things that are important.
How do you keep that in perspective?
As a tool or?
Yeah.
I guess for me, it's experiences. My time is the most valuable thing I have now. Now I have my family. I have something more to live for. I have the things that are truly more important to me than money. And so now it's, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I don't know.
I don't know. It came to my head, so I had to ask. Where does Andi go from here? You've got 3 successful, wildly successful restaurants.
Hopefully a 4th. There's an extra doghouse here in the valley that we don't currently own.
Ooh.
That we are probably going to be acquiring over the summer.
Okay.
So we're going to add an extra one of those in.
Is that in the airport?
It's not. It's in Tempe.
Okay.
So that one's in Tempe. Hopefully we're going to take that on. We're going to build the next chapter up. How big that grows, I don't really know. I want it to remain true to its value. That was really important to me in not franchising, is being able to bring in my values and mission and do it better. Home care is completely unregulated in Arizona. So to voluntarily bring regulations onto ourselves and hold ourselves to that is important to me. I do hope to grow that beyond just the East Valley. Maybe all of Phoenix someday.
Okay.
I like to dream big.
Yeah.
And then my plan is to spend a little bit of time developing some skills that I don't feel quite as strong in. I'm good with organizational leadership, systems and processes. I'm a great problem solver. I can read financial statements. I understand a P&L and a balance sheet. But again, I don't have a business degree. And I've considered, does it make sense to go back and do an MBA or something? And I fully respect everyone that has made that choice. To me, that's a lot more money, more school, or sacrifice of the one thing most important to me, time.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to cherry pick by just paying for programs and people to coach me on the things I want to get better at. Long term, I would love to look at buying and acquiring businesses.
Okay.
At that point, the next chapter, that's my passion project. So that's the one feeding my soul. Beyond that, it doesn't have to be the most exciting business to me. Mm-hmm. It just has to be something that I see some value in, and someone else either needs a partner or it's a retiring person looking to take something they've built their whole life and be able to retire on it. And so I would love the opportunity to come in and purchase that and modernize it, scale it, things like that. So yeah, hopefully my goal, I feel almost funny saying it out loud because it's being recorded and I've not recorded it so far. But I really am hoping to move into mergers and acquisitions in the long run. But I feel like I need to get a little bit of additional training on the financial side first. So that's my plan, is to spend some time doing that. Maybe take a vacation. I haven't really done that in the last 2 years. And I keep saying I'm going to next year. And then I keep opening more businesses.
Next year.
So the plan is maybe a real vacation in 2026.
How old's your daughter?
She's 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that's also the struggle. I feel like there's a lot of momentum right now in my career and a lot of opportunities coming my way. I want to take them, but I also want to balance that with recognizing I have 4 years left until she's off to college. I don't want to spend all of that time away from home. So it has to be something that fits my family life.
Totally.
We're past the point of the mortgage is paid, the roof is over my head. There's some stability there. I want to continue to grow and develop. I think it's important for the teams that we employ. I think people want growth and opportunity. And I feel like as a business owner, it's our responsibility to continue to provide that if we're in the position to do so. Aside from just my own development and kind of fun in growing businesses, I also want that for our teams. But balancing that with a little bit of family life.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You had mentioned at one point, and I can't remember the words you used, whether it was having an advisor or somebody to help coach you along the way. If somebody was starting out in business today and you were to give them some advice on who they should surround themselves with to help with those decisions or that thought process that they're not going to think about, if you could do 2, 3, 4 people, I mean, that you would say, hey, you need to have a good whatever.
About a year and a half ago, we had a CPA and bookkeeper and things that we used, and it got the job done. But a year and a half ago, we switched over, brought in a different firm. And so Nicole, she's our fractional CFO. She's with 5 Leaf Financial. She's come in. That's been a life changer. I 100% would tell everyone to get a fractional CFO. Because a bookkeeper or your CPA at accounting season, or like tax season, they're just looking at what you already did. And that's not super helpful. So to have someone that's really sitting and helping you do projections and see where are you headed, plan in advance, have those strategy calls throughout the year, find ways to not spend $70,000 on a tax bill because you mismanaged the way you pulled your retirement. So that's probably the single biggest thing. The other thing is an attorney. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Yeah. But really having an attorney look through and be proactive in setting up those practices, your handbook, advising on all of the different things. I did a much better job with that with the next chapter than we did Doghouse. Some of those were things that I figured I'd circle back to. And we did. With the next chapter, I really realized how important that foundation was. I had those conversations with the financial team. I had those conversations with Corey and stuff from the very beginning. Those are super helpful. And then really other business owners too. Because learning about the imperfections and mistakes that other people have made helps me. It helps me know that it's normal to make mistakes and that it's okay and that everybody's just dealing with their own shit. Almost everybody I know that's successful in business at one point has been convinced they were going to lose it. Some of them have. So that circle of peers, whether they're doing the exact same thing as you or ideally maybe they're even a couple steps ahead of you. I feel like choosing that circle wisely and not listening to the people who say you're not going to make it. Like, you've got to surround yourself with crazy people that when you sit at a table and have crazy dreams, they're like, okay, how are you going to get it done? I remember having a conversation with my fractional CFO, Nicole, who I'm good friends with now. I told her what my goals were, and they were pretty big. I love that she took those and put them into a spreadsheet for me. She's okay, here's the set for this year that you need for the bank, and here's the set for your personal goals that you told me you want to accomplish, and here's how to quantify them. She didn't tell me it wasn't possible. She took those numbers and she put them in, and she says, if you want it to be possible, this is what you need to do. And I feel like that's helpful because you just have to be a little bit crazy.
And I think as business owners, at least in my experience, a lot of business owners hit that moment where they're like, I'm done doing this for anybody else. I'm going to do it for myself, whatever that looks like. And it could be a soft moment. It could be a hard moment. If I don't do this now, it's never going to happen. But we're running so fast forward. For me, sell the next policy, pay the bills, sell the next hot dog, whatever it is. How do I get more people in the shop? How do I get the word out about this? And the last thing that's usually on our mind is, where am I going to be in a year? Where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10 years? And to be able to have somebody in there. It's funny because I just met Nicole recently, and I need to sit down and talk to her because I have a CPA. I have a bookkeeper. I have a tax accountant.
Yeah.
I don't have a fractional CFO. I don't have somebody who can sit there and go, let's look at this. Everything's reactionary.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
when I ask a question, I think that is such great advice. And sometimes as a small business owner, you sit back, I think, and you look and you say, okay, I don't know that I can necessarily afford
100%.
that,
I think that is the biggest, and I don't want to take too much away from what we're going to talk about in July at that APN Breakfast of Champions. But yes, no, absolutely. I think that you think you can't afford it. And that was for sure my perception. If I go back to 2018, 2019, I thought, okay, people get like attorneys and CFOs, all of these things when you're big. But the reality is you have all the same business problems, whether it's a $10 or $10,000 or $10 million problem, it's a problem. Right. And so finding that circle. And I think when you're a large corporation, you have all of these C-suite people around you. If you're the CEO, you've got a CMO, you've got a CFO, you've got a COO. You have all of those things. Yep. And so it's really silly to think as a small business owner, you don't still need that in some capacity. I recently brought Bellevue on and they're doing my marketing actually for both companies now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But again, I sit and talk with Leanne and I'm like, look, I want this relationship. You're just going to tell me what to do. Yeah. You're the expert in this. Yes, I'll pay you, but I want you to come tell me what to do. I think business owners often get in their own way.
For sure.
They think they're the best at everything. There's a lot of things I'm very good at, but I know now I have a much better understanding of what I'm not good at. Yeah. And I know to sit my little butt in the seat and let the smarter people in the room come and tell me.
For sure.
And so I think that's really what's possible. And in terms of affording them, those good people sitting in those seats are going to pay for themselves. I remember Nicole promising that when I first met with her.
Yeah.
I promise you that what you pay me, I'm going to save you in your business. And that's been entirely true.
Wow.
Same thing if you're looking at marketing, they're doing their job well. They're doing what ROI on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to look at that. It's like getting to the point where you're like, God, I really could use another employee. Yep. You can sit down and you can put all those numbers together and you can say, okay, yes, if I had another employee, that employee could do this, which then would alleviate me to be able to go do that.
Yeah.
Make more money. But God, it's going to cost a lot to hire that employee.
It costs more not to hire them.
Right.
Are you a Dan Martell fan?
But that's so hard.
I love Dan Martell.
Absolutely.
Buy back your time. You are the assistant.
I just finished that audiobook a couple months ago. Awesome book.
It's great.
Awesome.
If you ever want to be inspired, there's a post on his Instagram. If you respond like EA playbook or something, he'll send you the entire executive assistant SOP that he has for his assistants. And it's beautiful to see how he prioritizes his time.
Did he call her a house manager?
Yeah.
The gal that he would, hey, we're going to go to Italy. We send her 2 weeks in advance so she can make sure everything's set up right.
Yeah. I mean, he's on an entirely different scale
totally
than
different
we're
level.
on.
But at the same time, it's like, how cool would that be?
But it's like little things
She knows we like this kind of towel. But to be able to have that person made me start realizing things that suck my time.
Correct.
Like emails.
Yes.
Right?
Emails. I outsource. On the doghouse side, I outsource my emails.
Yeah, I'm working in my business. I'm working towards that. The more time I spend sitting at my desk is the less time I'm out building relationships.
Absolutely. So, yeah, and building those relationships is usually, in the long run, that's earning you more than $30 an hour.
Absolutely.
So if you can have someone doing it. And I think the fractional aspect of it, when you're hiring a marketing company to do that, they're essentially acting as that fractional CMO. Yep. Yeah. Nicole is working as a fractional CFO.
Yep.
The person who does my email, it's a virtual assistant. I'm paying her for 10 hours a month or whatever. So I don't have to have a full person always doing those things. But then it's okay, that frees up that time. And then you have that time to go and what can you produce when you get that hour back?
Right.
Or what is the time you can go home and spend with your family so that you're fresh the next day to produce? Right. Because I think sometimes that's overlooked too. You can only burn the candle at both ends for so long.
If you can work 100% 4 hours a day,
yeah,
or 50% 8 hours a day, I'd rather work the 4 hours.
Yeah. You're going to get a lot more done. Absolutely.
So I have really appreciated this.
Yeah.
You're adding something to the podcast, and you're the first that gets to do this.
Oh, man.
We're calling it the pressure point.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to ask you 3 rapid-fire questions.
Oh, my Lord.
You get to answer them. You're the first.
Okay.
You have 60 seconds to inspire a room. What's your message?
60 seconds to inspire a room. I feel like my message would really just be that anybody can do it. My wording's going to be bad, right? Because I'm on the spot here. But awesome. I think my story demonstrates that you don't have to start ahead. You can start from behind. You can start with a big effing sloppy mess, and you can still turn that into something. Where you're at today doesn't have to be where you're going to be in the future. Every single day, every single thing that happens is a new opportunity.
Second question. What's one misconception people have about success?
I think it's also related to the sloppiness. People see success as put together. I certainly struggle with that. I struggle with imposter syndrome. People think that I have my life totally together. And on the outside, I do. I have a color-coded calendar. I'm where I need to be. Everything's automated. It's very efficient. But it's still messy. It's still full of mistakes. It's still full of drives in the car with me bawling my eyes out. It's not easy. It's not at all like clean and perfect. It's just being willing to tolerate the crap that absolutely comes with or comes right before success.
Yeah. Final question. What drives you to get out of bed every morning?
I'm a morning person now, man. I don't know. Just the sunrise. I'm a total morning person. I believe in taking accountability for your life, and things don't happen to you. Things happen, and it's how you deal with them. I get up because I want to.
Isn't that crazy? I feel the same way. And I'm going down this rabbit hole now. I've gone through phases in my life where I've got up early and I've not got up early. I'm back to getting up early. I go to the gym early in the morning.
Yeah, same.
And I take the dogs for a walk. And there's this reflection that I do when I'm walking and just thinking. And I think through my day and I think about what I'm doing. But nobody tells me when I need to do something or how I need to do it.
Yeah.
I beat myself up when I'm not in the office or at a meeting by 7:30 in the morning.
That's crazy, huh?
It's like, why? But that's the whole thing. I could say, oh, my dad used to say the early bird gets the worm. But it's that whole thing where I feel nobody makes me do it. Nobody's telling me you need to be at work by 7:30.
Because you don't, because you're self-employed. You could
Right.
show up at 10 and no one's going to say anything.
Right. But then days come, you get a Saturday, and I sleep until 6. And I'm like, I got to get out of bed.
I feel like a badass, though. I spent a lot of years, I worked night shifts in the hospital. It was night shifts, overnight 7 to 7.
Oh, wow.
If you go back a decade, no one ever would have thought that I would be a morning person. My days off, I slept in. Trinity, when she was really little, she was on a shifted schedule. We'd go to bed at 10, wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning. But now I love mornings. And I feel like such a badass when I get up, especially in the summertime. I tend to hike and things like that early in the morning. So I get up when it's still dark.
Oh, wow.
And there's this incredible high that comes. If it's 7 o'clock in the morning, I've already hiked 5 miles. I'm dressed and ready for the day. And you just feel like you cracked the code. Everybody else is still in bed and you just got ahead in life while everyone else was sleeping.
I agree, 100%. Andi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really love this. So, you are the first, but everybody's getting a gift. I will have you open this on air and we'll explain what it is, because I like to have a cocktail every now and then in a conversation.
It even has my name on it. I love it. So I went above and beyond.
You've got a whiskey glass that says I went above and beyond. It's got our logo on it.
I love it.
Your name and the year that you were here.
Thank you.
So, and customized by Rocks Ink Calligraphy. You are now an official member of the Above and Beyond Club.
Thank you. I'm very excited. It's going to have my old-fashioned in it now. My tequila old-fashioned.
Thank you very much. And I really appreciate it. And I hope you all enjoyed our episode today. If you did, we hope that you like, share, and subscribe.
I'm Andi Ott, and I went above and beyond.
Golf outings where stories we share. Beyond the fairways, friendships grow. In APN's embrace, opportunities flow. No happy talking, just real deals. Authentic connections, the kind that heals. From Palm Springs to Pine Top's Grace, APN's network spans every place. Above Pond Network, we're going above and beyond, reaching new heights. In networking realms, scaling the heights. From mixers to golf, our spirits unite. APN's the beacon, our guiding light. So here's to APN, where dreams align. In every connection, a chance to shine. Above and beyond, we'll always strive. In APN's network, we truly thrive.